Hello, hello, hello. Happy GDP and Employment Thursday. How is everybody doing? Quick little reversal. It started overnight. We're going to have to get to the markets. So, good morning, Patrick. Hold on. M. Good morning. I like that. It's sort of like a chant. Santa rally, more like Elf fell off the shelf. What is Elf on the Shelf? I've seen it in stores, especially years ago, but I never know what it. I don't know what it is. Honestly, I don't know what Elf on the Shelf is. Good morning, CD. Good morning, Martinez. Arctic Morning Dew, Mike and crew. Nice little rhyme there, Dave. Yeah, minus 42 real feel. Why do you live there? Well, because you're crazy, just like I'm crazy for still living where I'm living. But it's where I am for the time being. Good morning, Jacob. Not looking forward to weather. Wasn't bad day yet this morning when they're taking the dogs out. Still about 29 degrees, but it's going to plummet this afternoon. By tomorrow morning, going to be the real feel below 35 below. Oh boy. Dogs are not going to be happy. Afternoon, Charles. I think I found a winning strategy. Do the opposite of what Kramer says. That's been a strategy for a while now. It's pretty gosh darn accurate. Getting ready for the now to hit here. Got generator, buddy, heaters, and hot cocoa. Sounds like a good plan. Stay warm in Kentucky. Good morning, Options 22. Good morning, Royal Palms. If we have some time, we can look at snow. Let me get two things right now. Thank you, everyone, for being here. You know what to do if you want to subscribe, because I think we do some good things here. All right. Jobless claims coming in slight, actual 216, previous 214, consensus 222. So still coming in right in line, actually better than consensus. GDP, this is interesting. Consensus 4.3 for the GDP price index, coming in at 4.4. So the price index coming in hotter. The growth rate coming in hotter, 2.9 versus 3.2. Core PCE prices, consensus of 4.6, 4.7 previous, coming in at 4.7. So in line with previous, no contraction there, and consensus beating consensus. So core PCE prices still coming in hotter. Quarter over quarter, yes, they're coming in better than previous and coming in line with forecast, but this last time was super hot, but that's still relatively high. Corporate profits, look at this. Look at that, the big drop in corporate profits. Continuing jobless claims coming in actually a little better than expected. So, jobless claims 4-week average coming in better than previous. Consumer spending still holding up, but that's not inflation adjusted. Next, we're watching at 9 a.m. Central. Keep an eye on the Consumer Board leading index. Consensus is -4. Going to be interesting to see if it still does print negative and how negative it is. Do not ignore that. I'm watching the Kansas City Fed at 10 Central just to see where the readings are in contraction versus previous. But that's it. The next only key thing is Consumer Board, and then it gets relatively quiet. And remember, tomorrow, 7:30, a whole bunch of numbers again. Down, we start a sell-off overnight, pulling back, and then after the GDP numbers, again, good numbers. Does that mean the Fed has to pause longer or keep the hike longer or blah, blah, blah? But good numbers equal bad for the market. You see the mega caps taking it in the shorts already, leading the way down this morning. Oil and energy relatively flat, with oil being up a little. Technology, communication services getting hit this morning, and energy up slightly but relatively neutral. Healthcare holding up one of the best, which is sort of a flight to safety, hiding in healthcare. So that's where we sit. Fed watch, last time I refreshed it, was still at 71% for the 75 basis point. And we are back. We are in fear mode. By the way, negative gamma, we were approaching, the gamma shift yesterday and now dropping back down pretty rapidly. And if we get an outside day reversal, watch out because we could get some additional selling. 38.35 is a very key area, then 3,800, especially 3,800 for, I believe it was, I think it was, I forgot who had the huge condor down at 38.35 to 3,800. So pay attention to if we drop back down to that area. CarMax gap down below most recent lows after a horrible earnings report and bad outlook in the car market. By the way, just let me put this up now. I don't know, everybody's holiday schedule, but I do want to put this up here. Just so I'm going to put this up a few more times. Now remember, Friday, everything's normal. Regular close. And I will be on after the close on Friday, but everything closes as normal. Then, of course, Saturday, everything's closed anyways. But Sunday, no futures opening. All right? Monday, the futures open at 5 p.m. Central for the equities, for the cryptos, for the energy, for interest rates. Some are still closed. But for the big ones, they open at 5 p.m. Central on Monday. So you don't have anything Saturday, Sunday, and then you get the opening on Monday evening. All right, so just pay attention to that. And of course, the stocks are closed on Monday. All right. Got that out of the way. Where are we? Let's see. Grand Rising, Christoph. Hey, Waka Waka. Hey, Ted. Welcome. Elf on the Shelf is a beanbag elf that parents move around the house without your kids seeing. Okay. All right. So, hey, maybe I could turn Elf on the Shelf into a dog toy. Dogs will have to find the elf every day. What are we watching for so far? So selling off. Where do we sit? Sounds like fun for the kiddos. I think it would be fun for the dogs. Hey, Anissa. Where's everyone here? Good morning, Maria. Thank you for being here. Where do we sit? Hey, Andrea. There you go. Thank you. Okay, Connor. Where are we headed today? We're going down. Tesla going to 126. Let's peek in at Tesla. Let's see. I mean, here's my key areas I'm watching. Let's just get to those. We remember on a daily yesterday. On the daily buy, there was no reward to risk, as I said, because it already tapped the rotation zone and the area of the 50. We started rolling over and then accelerating. My key levels, I'm watching to the downside. You see, remember, had a clear path move. Watch when you dip in these clear path moves because you can get acceleration, got into the clear path move, and then acceleration down. The key area I'm watching if we sell off into the open, 38.61, cannot tip back to substantially bearish until at least a 1 hour close below 38.47. All right. Short term, it was trailing as I talked about yesterday after the break above the previous day's high. Now, obviously trailing is done, but can't tip overly bearish until we get the close below 38.47. And I'll show you what I'm watching specifically on the NASDAQ because we also have those PCE numbers tomorrow and thinner markets. On any rally, the key area I'm watching would be this new breakdown zone, roughly around 3,900 to 3,904. That's what I'm watching on a bounce. We don't have any bottoming pattern just yet at about 15 minutes before the open. So I'm keeping an eye between the 50 and the 62.5 right now. Now in the bigger picture terms, still heading up on the daily, but I think this is going to roll over sooner than later. And on the weekly, we are still heading down. Could get interesting because next week, if the daily does roll over early again, next week will be low, low, and we could get a little pop into next week. But this is sort of but unless we get that close below the 62.5, it's in no man's land between the yesterday's highs and the 62.5 from my perspective. I am keeping an eye, though. If we start breaking down below yesterday's low at 38.55.50, we could get an outside day acceleration because everybody who's bought yesterday, regardless of your position, is now trapped and underwater going into PCE numbers on Friday. So that is something. I also have the harmonic projections. Should we get below the 62.5, then I'll be targeting the low area from Tuesday. And if we break down, we have these harmonics. Look at how they line up with the key support level. You have the harmonic in red right here, this 37.54 area, 37.55, and then 37.09. Just checking in real quick, then we'll get to some other markets. But you can, everybody, and look at this. Look where that major 62.5 is right here, the one I just put up, right at the next harmonic projection. So on the breakdown zone, that's your key level. You should just write this down in case we continue to sell off. 37.56 area, 37.55 is going to be critical. Critical area. That could be turned into a really nice short. NASDAQ is closer to getting an outside. No, that didn't form a higher high, but it's keep watching yesterday's low still. And the 62.5, I'm going to be keying off the 62.5, 11,173.25. Right now, we are between the 62.5 and the 50. But if we get that 1 hour close below that 62.5, not a 5-minute, unless we break that with substantial momentum, then it would be just a jump on momentum short. You have this prior resistance becoming support and at the 62.5. So this is a very key area going into the open. All right. And then the now on any rally in the NASDAQ, the major resistance 11,251. And then you don't have much back until 11,329, but in my book, it would take a lot to get back up there. Let's get to the spiders and the Qs. Boy, some of these days I almost have to start this live stream earlier. So, gap down, of course, with this. So, let's see. Yesterday's open, 383.25. We're trading 383, so right now, little minor resistance, 383.25. Also interesting enough, nearly that open from the Monday's prices. That's going to be your key level. And then the next major level is yesterday's close, coming in at 386.23. From a minor perspective, I'd be using this level right here. 385.17, 385 to 385.17 if it does bounce back. Also, keep in mind you still have the gap fill from Tuesday into Wednesday. First little support area I would not ignore. I'm going to give some tighter levels today than I normally do, but 381.53, and then I'd focus on the gap fill back down to 380.52. Those are the levels I will be utilizing. That was this gap fill you see, and then the next key area is 379.21. Now remember, the rally yesterday did not invalidate the double bottom that triggered and hit the first and second targets, bounced off the second target, so we could easily see another rollover play, which we're already getting downwards this morning. On the Qs. Remember, even if you don't trade this stuff, follow along with the analysis because that's what's key right now. The Qs, this 270 area, 270.30, trading right below that. So if we break down, we still have a partial gap fill, 269.54. That's going to be my primary target on the open. Also, let me clean up this chart just a bit. Remember, we also closed below 62.5 back on Monday, and now we're rolling over. But the gap fill would be the primary target, and then I'm going to bump up this level just a bit. Then to 268.56, then 266.95 to the upside. To the upside. Do not ignore about 270. 57, 270, 60 area on a little bounce into the open. It's got to get above there to sustain a rally, and then the next major target isn't until 272.61. Dow real quick. Don't have much time to jump to the comments just yet. Dow, I'm still watching for a reconnection with the 50, and then if we do break down potentially the 200 before if we really start breaking down, that's my next target. Russell, come on. There we go. Into the rotation zone. Rotation back down. The Russell area after hitting the short-term harmonics. The key area for the Russell we're going to be utilizing is 1756. But we're still well above that. So 1764 and 1756 on a closing basis. The DAX, just watching for a continued pullback after hitting the breakdown level and a closing in the rotation zone yesterday, but not much going on there. Notes are an inside day, so I'm watching yesterday's high and low for either the breakout or the breakdown play. That's the only thing in the notes. Still watching for this bottoming formation in the dollar index, but that does not really trigger until 104.53 on a closing basis. It is still a valid double on the daily time frame. So that's what I'm watching there. And then we could make a pretty quick run back to the 200. The VIX up slightly, but not overly emotional today. On a VIX rally, your key resistance is 21.12. Crude yesterday, I was watching for 78.37. On the settlement basis, we closed at 78.29, so no official close above the 62.5. Not much, a little follow through the area of the 75 today, but was not a great closing setup. So from my perspective, even on a rally, it would just be targeting the 50 area because we didn't get the key close probabilities to return that 87.5. So I'm pretty much slightly bullish to neutral on crude, but there's nothing great. U.S. dollar, Japanese yen pausing sideways after the big BOJ announcement. There's going to either be a breakout play above 132.55 or a breakdown play below about 131.71, but nothing yet. Euro still watching for this rotation zone to break and a return to the bottom of the rotation zone, at least initially, which would be about 105.13. The breakout play is above 106.60 at this point. The pound, which we did break down. I'm watching, and I talked about before, I'm watching for a return to the 50, 119.20 roughly. Bitcoin, we had, the Alameda people rolling over against Sam. So we should see what happens next. That's going to get interesting, but I expect some massive carnage in crypto, but nothing yet. Tesla, my next key, and this is the best we can do. We still don't have a longer-term pausing bars. 132.55, and then the really powerful level is 129.28. So continued selling pressure. Those are my two key areas. And we don't have a strong bottoming pattern yet. This is not the only thing on a break above about 140.75 would be a return to the other end of the rotation zone. That's about it. I just wanted to show you, where's my CarMax? KMX. CarMax, there's your brutal break below. Yes, there was a potential double. It still might be valid, but that's not going to trigger. CarMax is going to retest these the COVID lows easily before this is all said and done. Just from the perspective of what we've been teaching, way back in September, closing below the 62.5, and the first target was 52.44. We're trading pre-market 52.13. So there's another example of, even if you were doubting, should I get out? If you were holding, get the close below 62.5, just get out. We had snow real quick. What's going on? I think that was the request. Snow. If you break below 134 area, 134.11 area, 134, then I'd focus on the gap fill. Other than that, you're in just a huge consolidation pattern. Key resistance is still 146 area. Key support 134. We're trading 143 pre-market. If you do break above this 144, I just watch for a target being 150. There's nothing else much there. Yeah, AMC is going. AMC I've talked about for a while. They will be declaring bankruptcy this year. They're done. They're done. You can still have that little double play out from a while ago. Oops. But AMC's done. All the apes are going to get crushed. Pre-market 4. This thing's going to 0. Where else do we sit? I gave you the key levels on snow. Right now you can play a breakout above that 146 area, but the target's 150. I'd be more focusing on a possible rollover play and a retest of the lows, though. Which ape and AMC shares are virtually the same, but it's not going to matter. All the equity is going to get wiped out in AMC at some point. And it's going to be another bloodbath for the retail crowd that just wants to hodl with diamond hands. Again, you got to be. It's some of the stuff that goes on in these markets are disgusting. So, OXY. Oops. Then I got to peek back into the futures, then jump into the open. By the way, this was turned into a triple top. Just never pulled that off. OXY. I mean, there's not a lot of... There's major overhead resistance, even if you pop back above the 200. You can't, in my book, do a shorter-term bullish play until you get above about 65.40, 65.50. 65.50. I'd use 65.50, 65.55. It's just not great with everything positioned, because then you're slamming into the 50 and some of the wick breakdowns. If you're already long, you don't... I think we're going to get another rollover play in this. Honestly, it filled the gap, but there's just not a lot good in Oxy right now. This would be one I'd just avoid at this point in time. Yes, technically, you're stepping up. We technically have a short-term higher low, but if this breaks, you're probably going to retest this 56 to 54 area. Again, there's not a great pattern. If you're long already, I'd be very cautious since it did break the 200. Very cautious. Very cautious. All right, let's just peek back at the futures. Going into the open. See if we have anything. This is so far set up. Unless we get some super bullish price action right off the open, this is set for a potential break lower. Basing sideways with the rotation zone catching up. But it's either going to... The problem is on the break lower, you're trading into a lot of tight support. Oh. it might just be one of those days. Now, the more interesting play is that we start breaking above about 38.76 into this clear path move that was formed with the 730 numbers, the GDP, the PCE numbers. We could see a quick little bounce as long as the tick is supportive of that move. I would be real careful with AMC. It's losing its squeeze juice too. There's better things to trade out there. Yeah, you can always get a pop, but eh. All right. Apple. Let's peek at Apple real quick, and then I'll look at the tick, and then I'm jumping. Apple. Again, return to the breakdown zone, rotation zone. Going to gap down this morning, but there's major overhead resistance. So at some point, watching for the next key rollover play. You start getting below 130 in Apple, though. Watch out. Watch out. I've told you months ago, I think Apple's returning to some key lower, at least 117 area. Then I would not be surprised to see it even return sometime next year to 101. Just be careful with that. Let's check in on the tick on the open. See where we're opening. Negative tick off the open. That's a pretty negative tick. Lots of sell programs right off the open. Lots of sell on open. So I'm going to be watching to see at that minus 600 to minus 400 on any bounce. And nope, there's the initial rollover play. So my key target is the 38.61. Should we really start getting some breakdown below 38.70? With that, I now need to run. I shall see everybody after the close. Bye.